Friends, welcome to this new episode. Today we are going to know two very interesting experiences. And that in this case will not be narrated by me, but directly by their protagonist. To be honest, I didn't prepare the scripts or record anything. Therefore, this is a very good way to have experiences on the channel in a different format. As I always tell you, I would like to know what you think about each of them after listening to them. Friends, now we begin with this new paranormal story. Enjoy it.
Good day, Andres. My name is Luis, and I'm going to recount what happened to us along with a friend we were traveling with. We are in that one. At that time, I distributed everything that was like that. The distribution was traveling, and I distributed everything that was craft work. On this occasion, something unusual happened to us, and that to this day, every time I meet with this boy, his name is Alberto, in some conversation that comes up like this about strange things that have happened to us in life or unexplainable things, sometimes what they ask me, because I have been traveling much of the country doing this work of the trade of a traveler. I've been doing it for over 15 years, and always in some gatherings, this kind of comments come up, like if you haven't seen something strange on the road or things like that. And I feel somewhat satisfied because the truth is that I haven't seen it alone. And that's why I dare to tell you today what happened to us. Practically, leaving San Luis Capital, going towards San Rafael, Mendoza, we started on Route 146, which is the one that connects San Luis Capital and up to what is Bisley, a small town that is about 60 kilometers from what is San Luis Capital. We were coming with a relatively moderate rain. From there, from Bisley, about 10 kilometers past, it rained all over us. It was something you couldn't see. There was but a lot of water on the road. We were in a vehicle with an F100. The vehicle had a dome and everything, and it was quite windy too. That night, we had already arrived at Bisley, around 12 at night or so. It's 60 kilometers that we did, more or less that stretch, at 60-70 kilometers per hour because it didn't allow for more. In some cases, we were going much slower. The whole route was full of water. I wouldn't go beyond third gear, and it would sometimes put it in fourth after Bisley. After about 10 kilometers, yes, the truth is that it rained all over and we are on the road and we're listening to music, drinking some mate. I remember with a friend, his name is Alberto. And after traveling about 20 kilometers from the small town we had already passed, something happens to us that to this day has not. I can't come to explain what it was doing. We keep going, and on the shoulder we see a person, a big person, accompanied by a little dog. And he was carrying something. It would be on the back. He was carrying like a kind of a burlap bag with clothes, it seemed, as we were going slow. I say to Alberto, look, it's happening. This person is in the middle of the road, and I understand that there is nothing until Montecoman. And roughly from the town I told you to Montecoman, there were about 250 kilometers where there was absolutely nothing. The only thing I remember is having taken that route. During the day, there are usually entrances, some dirt roads that go into the countryside in some places. And really, these things we saw threw us off because it was a person we saw walking who was with a little white dog by their side, walking alongside, right on the shoulder of the road. So I say to him, look, Alberto, can we take him? The man and his dog are getting wet in the rain. He says, oh, well, let's stop. I don't know if I took about 20 steps because I was going so slow that when we saw him, I barely spoke to him. I pulled over to the side of the road. So I put on the hazard lights and Alberto gets out. Because, well, 3 people can fit in the van. I was on the driver's side and was practically driving. I remember that time, I'm talking about 20 years ago, we had a cell phone. It was a Nokia with a flashlight. So you go, Alberto, and you start looking for this person with the little dog. and we couldn't find him. Alberto comes running as the man seems to have walked despite the heavy, albeit slightly east rain that continues to pour. Luckily, on that shoulder there was a kind of small stone, so the water was absorbed, otherwise everything would have gotten wet. And Alberto comes running back and says to me, "Luis, let's go, but very, very scared, really very scared." It's a rare sight to see my friend in that state. He encourages me to proceed since no one is nearby. I've looked for the man and there's no one. I've gone up to about 20-30 steps and he's not there. And I don't know where he could have gone because there's nothing nearby. And we also didn't see anything nearby. There wasn't a light, nothing at all, total darkness. So we went back out to the road because I had parked on the shoulder. I go back out to the road and we keep going. There I stopped the music. We stopped brewing, the mates, everything, and we were looking at each other on the way to the faces, trying to explain what had happened. My friend, who is usually quite superstitious, provided no explanation on the subject. Because he has been raised in the countryside, I am also from the countryside, but more raised in the city. Since a very young age, he was raised in the countryside until he was 15 or 16. And these kinds of things have always happened to him. So that's why I saw him so scared that night that to this day we have no kind of explanation. Where could that man have gone? Well, the thing is that we continue further on. The man has relaxed a bit. I put the music back on, a slightly happier music, and well, he tells me, we keep drinking, mate, as I assure him there's no issue and we'll look into it. In the thermos there was still half of the water left, so it was hot and we all continued drinking, mate. Before reaching Monte Coman, about 15 kilometers before, we see this character again with him, with the little dog by his side. Given that at no time did any vehicle stop us or pass us, nothing happened to us at all. The only thing we had passed, which was going towards Monte Coman, towards San Luis, were 1 or 2 trucks. That was all that was seen on the road during that entire journey, but it was going the wrong way. It's not like it passed us and overtook us. Those people were like going towards me from San Rafael to San Luis, about 15 kilometers before. We see the same person again, dressed the same way, with the little bag on his back and the little dog walking. Alberto nearly had a heart attack upon seeing him. Luis tells me, "Don't you dare stop this time, please," because I'm actually a bit like that. While I could be generous on the road with people who needed it, I always tried to lend them a hand. Since that day, I already left to stop on the road more than anything at night. Why? Because, this happened. To this day, we can't explain what could have happened. We passed it. I slowed down a bit. We saw it. To the man who signaled us, we could never see his face because the light wasn't good enough to see his face, but he signaled with his hand. As if everything was fine, he gave me a thumbs up and we returned it to the man, and when I turned around, he had disappeared. The little I could see of what was the part. Already arriving at Monte Coman, where there is a pair of lights which can be seen. And besides, it wasn't raining as much as when we left Beasley. It was something that really marked us. Something that has no explanation. How could that man have passed? How could he have reached that place if no vehicle passed us? The only 2 vehicles were going the wrong way, that is, they were going from Monte Coman to San Luis, and there is absolutely nothing on that route, but nothing at all. Those who know that road realize the stretch I'm talking about, which is all desert. There is nothing. So if you stay there, I guess you could spend half a day until a tow truck or someone comes to get you. It's a journey where people who always went from San Rafael to San Luis or vice versa were told to check their vehicle well, because it's not a route to get stranded on. It's not pleasant because there's nothing, brothers, there's nothing. So that was one of the things that happened to us with Alberto. And the truth is that to this day we have not found any kind of answer We tried to see or to look back and confirm whether anything had happened to us, but nothing did. The only thing we saw were those two trucks going from Monte Coman to San Luis. It's an anecdote that we continue to tell to this day to see if it happened to some people. Have you experienced something similar? But when we saw this man with the little dog for the second time, Alberto told me no. Well, I mean, he was terrified. Of the few times that I've known him, it's been a long time since I've seen him like that. The man's face was about to be disfigured from the fear he had. Some things are inexplicable. It was one of the few times something like this happened to me with someone. Sometimes one thinks, due to one's own issues, that it could be some kind of hallucination of being tired on the road. Because if you start to think there are things and mysteries in the world that have no explanation, so you have to leave them there, just like that. But on that route, I don't know, it's been at least 8 years since I've been on that route. I don't know if it has changed. I don't know if it's still the same, but I've heard from people that a lot of strange things have happened to them.
Good evening, my name is Gustavo. I started following your channel a while ago, and well, that's it. I wanted to share this experience, or this amount of experiences that happened to me almost correlatively when I was younger at my parents' house. It turns out it was in the year 2009. I had started studying mechanical engineering at that time, mechanical. I finished in 2007 and had already lost 2008 because my head was everywhere. It was a quite traumatic year in terms of academics and getting used to what a university level was. And even more in a demanding career like engineering, and in which I end up leaving the career and desisting around August, almost the beginning of September, from continuing with the career. And well, I lived in my parents' house. I had the computer in my room, and I remember one night, I don't know why, I had found a while ago the audio of the real exorcism, the exorcism of Emily Rose, which is on YouTube, which is with the photos of how she was degrading, with her voice talking about who the emojis were and all that in German, and I don't know why. Every night when my parents went to sleep and I stayed up, I would go to my room and the first thing I would see was that video. So here comes the first experience, which is my house. Things always happen, but I think this, what I'm about to tell you, was the heaviest of everything we experienced. It turns out that I was in my room, locked in my room. You would enter through the doorway. In front of you was a bed, the foot of a bed. To the left was the computer desk against the wall, and behind against the other wall that the computer was leaning on. There was another bed placed transversely, to which the foot of the bed faced the door. So it was like the beds formed in 50, and to the right of this 50 I was there with my computer. Then I remember how I was watching this video with the photos and everything of Millie Rose's exorcism, the true one, or Annikis Mitchell's case. And I see to my left. Suddenly the padding of the bed that was there sinks in, as if a cat had crawled under the bed. Did you see the movement? That one where the head goes first and then stays? The padding continues to stretch until the tail has passed, when the raised tail arrives. And at first I had cats, but they didn't come into the house. It had been quite some time, so I knew it wasn't a cat. And well, nothing. I got scared. I took out the videos I was watching and started watching something else. I checked under the bed when I had a little more courage, and obviously there was nothing. A few days passed, maybe a week or two, I can't say for sure. The thing is that by this time I don't remember well how much time passed. The thing is that one morning me and my parents were coming back from work at 3 in the afternoon. As I tell you, I had stopped attending school and had taken up this habit of nightlife. And that made me wake up late many times, and when I woke up my parents would find me lying down. Was it a cause for conflict at home? So I remember one morning, rather noon, suddenly I wake up because I start to hear the noises of my dad's truck arriving home. So I hurried to get dressed, to act as if nothing had happened. as if I had been up before, so it wouldn't cause this conflict. When I get up, I get dressed, I get to the door of my house, I look outside and there was nothing. It should be clarified that from the door of my house to the gate that leads to the street, there is roughly a distance of about 30 meters. And also it's a street that at that time was hardly used. Today it's a bit more used, but even then there was no traffic noise. Could it have deceived me? What was that? So I look out the window, I see there was nothing. I go back to the room, but at that time I was not going to bed. I remember that I turned on the computer, played music on the computer. I was lying on the bed. About 10-15 minutes later, I checked the time again. Shouldn't they have arrived by now? And about 10 to 15 minutes later, I hear them say, "Gus, open up for me." It was my mom's voice. And I said, "It can't be my mom. She's at work." They arrive at 3 in the afternoon. It was around 1:20, and I say something's off here. Unless she went to the doctor and they didn't notify me that she was going to the doctor. My father told her to come home since they worked together at the time. So I went to the dining room, to the living room actually, where the door is. I looked out the window. I never opened the door and there was no one there. To this day, I vividly recall that moment. I wasn't asleep and it was my mother's voice. A couple of days pass again, the same situation. My parents go to sleep. I would lock myself in my room. They slept upstairs. I had a room downstairs and where I slept upstairs. But I used to live and sleep more in the one downstairs, which was where the computer was. And well, I turn on the computer and as always, I start watching videos on the internet. At that time, I no longer watched this video from Emilio Ross after what had happened to me, but I watched every night. ALF hadn't cut off, at least for a while, because I'm really drawn to the theme. And I was watching ALF videos, the ALF series, and not even 10 minutes had passed when we went to bed, and suddenly we heard a bang against the door, as if someone had run into it. I live in Bariloche. As I told you, the land is quite large, 2,000 square meters. I have about 30 meters. From the door to the street gate, on the side of the house, there's about 7 meters, maybe up to the fence. It sounded like someone ran against the door trying to open it. In my house, there was no noise at all at night due to the lack of traffic. At night, you could hear the dogs running outside, the trotting of the dogs. And my old man came down with the rifle. I also ran to the door with our mastiff, Politano, who slept inside. He got up and went against the door too. And we got there, the three of us, we met. My old man was looking out the window, there was nothing. My old lady was looking out the upper windows, there was nothing. After a while, we opened the door. The dog came out first, looks at us as if saying, "There's nothing." My old man also came out to inspect. There was nothing. To this day, we don't know what hit the door that night. And relating everything that happened, I understand that perhaps due to my emotional state at that moment, maybe it was something that wanted to enter the house. That's what I suppose. After some time later, in retrospect, I see the three things that happened almost simultaneously, with a week or two difference between one and the other. And we don't know how to explain what it was. After this, we didn't experience more situations like that, not at least related ones, not at that time. I wanted to let you know about things moving on their own inside the house, but it's nothing really. I'm from San Carlos, from Bariloche. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you.